Now, do you want us to talk about Warrior or not? How are you feeling?
The question is, do we have to? And I think we probably kind
well,
of
you
have to.
listen. So, prefacing this, it's gonna be all you because it's your main, and they killed it. You played it today on the stream. If you want to talk about it,
Yeah, no, I think we probably, since we're probably not going to have any videos on it anytime soon, considering that it's definitely not in its final form when it comes to design, it definitely points out to something that we can probably both talk about, and that is the discrepancy between class designs and how they are approached by very different people, and how it feels like they're sometimes part of different games. So, and listen, at the end of the day, it could all be very subjective, right? What I find fun about Warrior doesn't have to be what everybody else finds fun about the Warrior. And if I like it or if somebody likes it, doesn't mean that you have to like it as well. So it's all going to be personal bias, but I have been a fan of Warrior since 2004, 2005, so I started World of Warcraft. And we've seen this consistent design of change where either they're not communicated properly or they're not implemented properly all at the same time, because it happened for Warlock. And
before we get into like the philosophical part of it, let's go through what actually happened, and then we can both talk about the philosophies and what was actually here. All right. So I am over here at the like what happened with the Warrior. Yeah. So reverted an unintentional change to interface tooltip. Okay, so let's hero talent for arms.
Yeah.
Reap the Storm now also triggers from cleave for arms.
So this has had some issues for arms particularly, because you're no longer getting a beefed up Whirlwind, since you don't even have Whirlwind anymore. Now you have Cleave, and it would used to consume a lot of your rage and do a lot of your damage. Now that makes that free, and arms currently is facing a very rage overflow problem, where you're most of the time, or some of the time, ignoring your rage, and people have addressed this in feedback, and this doesn't really help the tech. It's kind of like the opposite. Okay. It not only takes away like a big payoff of your rotation where you're like, oh, now I get to slap a fat ability, it just makes it free. And I don't know if this is exactly what arms needed.
Okay, we'll carry on. Yeah. Blade's Master's Torment has been redesigned. Activating Avatar casts sweeping strikes, and while Avatar is active, the cooldown of Cleave is reduced by 1.5 seconds. Now this is the biggest thing, right?
Yeah, this is the biggest thing that changed, and kind of has a lot of people talking at the very least.
Okay, let's check out the note, and then you'll have your piece on it. Okay, so the note from the developer: with recent updates to Blade Storm, this talent went from strong synergy to a near lock-in, particularly for Slayers. Total Blade Storm uptime was also becoming disruptive, so we've redesigned this talent to be useful in AoE situations and provide a different rotational cadence during Avatar. World of Torment tooltip updated with detailed information, no functional changes. Okay, so what happened here?
Okay.
I saw you on stream.
So it depends. Once again, we're talking about different types of players, because right now, if you're going to play arms properly in AoE, where you would take this talent to have the double Blaze Storm, because you would have the normal Blaze Storm and then the one activated by Avatar. Yeah. You don't play this, actually. This is not the most popular one, at least not where you're playing arms and you want to do dungeons. The build is actually not taking this, and the double Blaze Storm was kind of like big AoE. That's the only time it would be good. If you take this, you're either not caring about optimizing your play or playing the proper build, and you're just trying to have fun, and it's neither here nor there. That's one thing. So I don't think this was the popular one. I'm not sure where the data is for this, but I suppose they have the data. The other thing is how they change it. I'm not particularly hung up on the having two Blade Storms or pressing Avatar and then being in a channeled ability that doesn't let you actually play the spec.
Yeah.
I like it. I like Blade Storm. That's why I like Warrior. It's a very iconic ability, but let's say we can get rid of that. Having sweeping strikes in just creates problems that, as an average arms player myself, I have noticed. When you press your Avatar, normally you want to continue doing your big abilities, big cooldowns, but you still have Blade Storm from your talent tree because you're arms warrior. So then you press Avatar, you have sweeping strikes, and then you Blade Storm during those sweeping strikes.
But you cannot use abilities during Blade Storm? Like,
no.
Your sweeping strikes, when you activate that, if I remember correctly, that activated like the cleave situation where
you would never use it during Blade Storm because
I remember that. So
now, but you have it now during Blade Storm.
That's weird.
so what? It's not intuitive for people. I'm sure there's ways to play around it, but it doesn't really sound like good game design because you're popping Avatar and then you're Blade Storm. So whatever sweeping strike uptime you have, it gets wasted during Blade Storm, and you still have your own sweeping strike. So I don't understand exactly where this design is supposed to be going.
So maybe we're looking too much into it. Maybe they just want you to have those outside of it. So it's like a bonus, like extra stuff for you. Do whatever. people are gonna want to get value out of those. So you want to get value out of your Blaze Storm, you want to get value out of your Super Strikes, but you still have them separately.
It doesn't. The problem is that either a new player or a player that's not very experienced in arms won't know exactly what this means and what to do with it.
Oh yeah, this is not new.
What's very clear is that they don't want double Blaze Storm, and maybe I can understand that. That's fine, but the replacement doesn't feel like it's gonna stick. I would be surprised if this is what we're gonna have in the end. And normally we would just like brush past these types of topics, but it feels a little so disconnected with how arms plays and what is funny with arms that it kind of makes it feel like whoever's doing this doesn't really play the spec.
That's the feeling you got, right?
Which is a weird feeling to have, because nobody knows who the person is and how or maybe they do, or what they actually enjoy doing in World of Warcraft. But it definitely feels like it's something disconnected from what makes arms.
Okay, shall we go through Fury as well?
Let's go, because there's at least one positive for Fury.
Okay. So Fury, Berserker's Torment tooltip updated with detailed information, no functional changes. Tenet's Torment tooltip updated. Okay, Odin's Fury damage increased by 133% overall.
Yes.
Reckless Abandon now buffs your next Bloodthirst and Raging Blow. So Odin's Fury now does damage.
Yes.
Damage.
Well, that was a thing that people have been talking about throughout the entirety of the Dragonflight since they brought Odin's Fury back. It was severely undertuned, and the only time you played it, I think
we were so happy when they brought it back, and then it was shit.
Yeah, but didn't that happen with Outlaw and Dreadblades as well when they added it back? It was just severely undertuned.
Don't remind me about that.
That's fine. I mean, now it's most likely playable. It does quite a bit of damage. The problem with Fury is that so much of the spec is just very bugged, and this is like a totally different, let's say, issue than what arms has, because you could say I don't like this change for arms, but you don't even know if you like or don't like what changes Fury has, because you cannot play them because they're bugged. Slayer has been kind of undergoing the same issues and same bugs since we've tested it on alpha back when we went to the Creator Summit thing back in London, and it's weird that it hasn't been changed right now, and I don't know what to think about Fury because I don't know where the bugs will be fixed, how it's going to be, if we're going to have the same skills. So it feels like there's a lack of either communication or engagement with Warrior, and it's probably the one that we can talk about because we've just had changes, but there's other specs and classes that people are just constantly spamming in all the chats, but where's my Shaman? Where's my dad? So
where's my dad?
When you I don't know, we went to get milk.
Yeah, the milk.
But when you have specs like Mage and then you have classes like Warrior and you're looking like, okay, well, why aren't they treated the same? Like, what's going on?
Let's not give the mage example again.
You can say Warlock too. You can
say Warlock. You can say
DK as well.
Windwalker Monk as well. DK, Red Paladin. There's a lot. So we're not gonna give the Fire Mage example because we've been accused of making only Fire Mage videos. Like we have 3 Fire Mage videos out of 30. Like
and none of us are like main Fire Mages. A lot more than I have.
I guess it's a bad thing to like praise them when they do good shit. But regardless, let's talk about the philosophy here because I think it's a really important point of discussion. So when you have situations like Warrior, especially arms, but I think Fury is not that far apart. I don't know how many of you are maining arms right now and we're thinking about maining arms or Fury in the War Within, but it's clear to me that this is not the level of involvement from the devs when you look at some other melee specs. And let's talk about the other plate melee specs, Red Paladin and Frost Unholy DK. What you see there,
it's not even.
I won't call it's pure perfection because that's hard to achieve. Although Fire Mage,
what?
But it's very, very clear that it's either what Flame said, and I have a really hard time accepting that the dev in charge of Warrior is not really playing or liking the spec, or I don't know. It's either that or at some point, and this was something we addressed in the past, the attrition rate in the WoW team must be high. Because on one hand, you have so many cool specs designed, and on the other, you look at what's happening to like this, and these are updates for Warriors, and it's not like the one we had for Survival where you had, remember that, the lunging strike had like another 3 yards or something, bullshit like that. No, this is like proper updates, and it feels like either it's somebody new or it's just like people.
Maybe they don't have experienced Warrior developers for it. Maybe
but that would be a problem in and of itself. You cannot really put somebody in charge of a spec who hasn't really.
The thing is, we're saying this, but it might come off as like super insulting. But that's not what we mean. Like, we're legit curious because we've had even a more recent example. We don't have to do the Fire Mage. We can just do Survival Hunter. We've talked about Survival Hunter last week.
Yeah.
And the Hunter community, not us, but the Hunter community actually compiled a big list of feedback with all of the issues for the Hunter rework. And I'm pretty sure, just by looking at what Hunter has gone through and kind of listening to the Hunter community, that most, if not all of it, has been listened to, like very closely and very on point. And that's very surprising because you don't see that across the board. So it's clearly different people handling different things.
Question is, did the Warrior community make a nice version?
Well, I'm pretty sure they did. I mean,
send it over.
As far as Archie's concerned, I think I've read pretty much every post that he has, and they've been talking about feedback for issues for months now.
Oh, yeah.
I guess there's just a different level of engagement, and like, this is probably neither here nor there, but at the end of the day, you're selling this expansion. There's a lot of Warrior players, and they're looking at their class and they're like, but those guys, but what about me?
You don't want people to think about, you know, they're gonna drop their favorite class. This is a problem. It's not like us where now I want to try something else. That's a different approach. But when you're like, you know, there's a lot of people out there who just play Warrior. They play arms all the time, and that's what they want to play, and they don't want to change it, and that's it, right? You cannot really fuck them over. I know, you know, it's a launch of the expansion or whatever, and we don't know the numbers, and I don't know if they go into this micro detail of a situation where how many players are playing Warrior or whatever, but that's not the point. The point is, you cannot have notes for specs that are clearly being listened to, and the points that were addressed in all of those are from the community, and then you have this, which you see on Warriors.
You know, like we've memed and we've had some very, very nasty Warlock videos that we just didn't get to post because they fixed the issues too quick. And I'm hoping that this is the case for Warrior. I do have to preface is that this is probably not the final version of ARMS, but it was an interesting experience because earlier today we've tested this on stream. As an ARMS Warrior main currently, and as a person that wanted to main ARMS in the War Within before, you know, all the class changes happened, this was legit the first time in World of Warcraft where I was, no memeing, actually sad. Because I went I just went into ARMS, tried to play the spec, and it just felt like, oh, I guess I just won't be playing ARMS anymore. And I've never had that feeling. Like, I've trashed Survival before, I've trashed Warlock before. It was still kind of fun, but this just felt like, oh, this is just turning into a different spec that I don't like anymore. And I cannot imagine that I'm the only person that might think this way.
Is your feeling like resonating with others as well? Like when you look at, like, I don't know, the Skyhold Discord or the forums.
I've read a lot of people having very negative reception to this. I heard a lot of people, or I've seen people not liking it. I don't know if it's to the degree that I don't like it, but I haven't heard almost any positive stuff. Maybe I've missed it, and that's fine. But overall, the feeling that I've felt today kind of makes sense from what I've heard people interact and react to the changes that happen right now. And let's say maybe now I understand shamans while they're complaining that for weeks and weeks and weeks, but where's my rework? And I was like, I don't get it. Why was the problem, right? Maybe this is the problem, and maybe this is something that a lot of people feel with their spec. Maybe this is how, you know, Survival Hunters felt when they lost their range. Like, I don't know if alienating people by changing the entire philosophy of how a spec is supposed to be designed is the way.
Well, it's not the way, for sure. Or if you're gonna do that, do it in like the most engaging and cool way possible, not like what's happening here. It's sad because as much as, like, I know a lot of people would like prefer to not have major changes within their specs or whatever, moving from expansion to expansion. What they did in the War Within with all of the revamps, like you had like some classes, some specs have like total reworks, and some others were just like let in the bin. So at some point you kind of like set up your community to expect this.
You raise the bar.
You raise the bar. You've shown a lot of specs that have been completely changed for the better, for the much better. and you kind of like set this expectation. Now everybody wants something fresh and new and exciting, and it has to be encompassed in this neat little system you brought back in Dragonflight with just the talents and well, hero talents as well. If that's not gonna happen, you're gonna have a lot of sad little flames over here that it's gonna ride. they're gonna ride, and I don't know how to positively like feedback this because it definitely seems to be some sort of internal issue, and I don't feel they have enough people. I feel like what's happening now within the WoW team, I think there's like one person for like 3 or 4 specs. And,
probably something like that.
Yeah, and if that is the case, it's a heavy workload, and you have to like be very, very careful to not like have.
It's so interesting because it's such a thin line that they're working on. Because on one hand, dude, I really feel bad for the devs that receive constant negative feedback. I'm pretty sure they're doing the best job. I'm pretty sure that a lot of them are like, oh, I bet they're gonna like this, and then they're like, no, this sucks. As somebody that works in a creative process,
we know how brutal this community is.
Oh my god, I cannot wait for people to see this, and then they tell you, no, it sucks. You're so bad at your job. That is soul crushing. So I understand that, and I don't want to like throw any shades or any dirt around, but it's at some point like people care about their specs so much.
That's the thing with WoW.
Incredible how attached people are emotionally.
We see that in our tier list videos. Like whenever
how
we
can
do,
you put it in C tier?
Like we tried our best to like visually show data. Like pure numbers, so nothing subjective. Like when we did the meta analysis tier list and put like all of the assets, like the data research, and even after that, people are so attached to their spec. Like when I say, how can you put Survival Hunter in D tier? Because it's the best. I love it. But dude, I didn't put it. It's the numbers. The numbers just don't add up. I'm sorry.
And
even then,
blame math.
Even then, people will get upset about it. So you can imagine that you will have a very visceral reaction to things like this from spec mains, because we know the WoW community at this point is like, I don't know, I think 30 plus, 24 plus.
Probably the age demographic is probably around there.
So I could think like the youngest would be 24 something, and the oldest will be, I don't know, 50, maybe 60, I don't know. So it's quite an adult place of gamers, sweaty gamers. And when you think about that age demographic, you can bet your ass that they have came to that age with a big majority of their adulthood being invested into this game. Thus, the big attachment, thus the visceral reactions. It's basically like if someone would pick on one of your family member or whatever, you would have a visceral reaction, right? So
there's a positive to that kind of a community, because on the other hand, if you do good by them, they're like super loyal. I mean, we've seen this with
that is true. Players. Although there is a saying that whatever Blizzard do, they're not gonna be able to know. But there's gonna be people that are never gonna be satisfied in Warcraft.
That's always the case.
It's always the case. But at the end of the day, I guess they have an attrition problem. I guess they're still working out some of things. Although we do know that the team is way bigger and stuff. Yeah. I just hope they get their shit together because there's not much time left. That's the problem.
That is very concerning.
Yeah, for some specs, because I'm pretty sure like the gameplay modes, not the Mythic Plus Dungeons set, but the majority of the gameplay mode will be quite in place and in check. And you gotta remember. So remember Dragonflight when it launched, we had a couple of reworks which we were very excited about. But
I feel
then
Shadow Priest sick coming along.
No, I'm not. No. But it could be that, but then you had 10.1, you had 10.2, and those came with reworks as well. So
who would have expected and predicted Red Pilot?
Yeah, I was blown out of my mind back then. But regardless of that, when you have a spec that is not going to make the cut at the launch of the game,
it doesn't really feel good.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good, I know, but at least you can expect it in a 0.1 patch.
There's definitely hope for the future. Like this isn't like the end all be all. This is not the final form of arms. So I've mentioned it before as well. It is important to a degree that we kind of feedback, you know, how the spec plays, how we view it, because I feel like also sometimes the feedback that most devs probably have access to is probably the right feedback from the high level players, the theory crafters, all that, and everything, how it works under the hood. But there's also the majority of players that engage with the visual part of the spec. Like, dude, I don't care if double blaze storm is bad. I just like spinning all the time. Like, there are a lot of people that just don't care about
that's the majority. True.
And that's what gives you the feel of ARMS. That's what gives you like, oh, I like big flash animations, but that's not the best. I don't care. I just like to play the big flash animations.
True. And you mentioned that, but it is the majority of players. It is the majority of players. You can talk about Blizzard always addressing the concerns of the 1%. I don't necessarily think that's true. Not always. Not in always. The big scope, because they like you saw what they said within the Mythic Plus interview. They know how the high-end players play with the affixes, and they know how, like, you know, the mid-range players, so they know the behavior of their players.
Yeah.